Divine discussions, divine. On Sundays we stream live. Divine discussions, divine. Conversation to stir up your mind.
I honestly think that sometimes, and I'm not going to say all the time, but I'm going to say sometimes, I think it's an issue of pride because a lot of stuff that we call church hurt is not always church hurt, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. A lot of times it's us being offended and we want to use church hurt. And I think Lindsay said this as a clutch to justify our offenses, right? So our leader corrected us or rebuked us, and because we're so offended by it, because pride is so much in the way, we can't even see the bigger picture. We drop it under the category of church hurt. Now, let me say this because I want to be careful how I say my words. I'm not trying to be insensitive to people who have truly experienced church hurt, because church hurt is a thing. It is a thing, and there are people out there who have experienced it. But what I'm saying is, I think a lot of times, and like I said, not all the time, I think there are times when people use that as a clutch to justify the fact that, oh, I'm offended, so I'm
We
gonna make this.
operate a lot in the spirit of offense.
Exactly. And so it's like, and a lot of times we jump immediately in our flesh. We don't even pray about it. Like, Lord, will show me. Sometimes we have to be shown ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And I think if you can't take correction, if you can't take rebuke, that's not always a sign of poor judgment or a shortcoming on your leader's part. That may be a shortcoming on your part because you can't stay put long enough to be corrected, to be rebuked. And of course, we do it in love. And there are some leaders and people who don't do it in love, but there are some genuine leaders out there who can see past where you are. They've been doing this for years and they can see that, okay, you need to be corrected in this area. And if you can't sustain that correction and you want to lean in on church hurt and put it under the category of church hurt, and then it's just boom. So, and it's just like you said, we'll try anything else a second time, but because one individual has messed up, we decide that, oh, I'm done with the church. And it's really honestly beating us out of a relationship with God. Because at the end of the day, that's the main factor, our relationship with God. It ain't our relationship with people. And, sometimes God does place people in our lives to help us. But I'm just saying our relationship with God is the most important thing. And we don't even look at the big picture of that. So I think a lot of times offense and pride gets in the way and we call it church hurt, but it ain't.
But yeah, there's certain things that go on in church that which take certain freedoms from us, whether you were born in the church or you come from the world and into the church. And I think sometimes too, the problem comes where like, if you do falter or anything like that, like, it's like, oh my gosh, the world is over. Like, it's the biggest thing ever. Like, not to say that, okay, any sin you commit, well, none of the sins you commit should be like looked past, obviously, but you have to let people understand, like, God has grace, so where's your grace? So, and I think that's a problem. Like, people fall and then it's just like this big old thing, and then depending on the person, sometimes they feel like they can't come back from it, or, well, I might as well be in the world anyway since y'all make it, you know what I'm saying? So it's two sides to it. So sometimes it's just that people are not willing to give up certain freedoms, and then on the other side, people don't know how to deal with or handle when things like that happen. So I feel like that's what makes it so easy to give up on, because sometimes there's such a weight put on, like, I got to do this, I got to do that, and I got to make sure this looks that way, and whatever other things you got to get in order. And people don't really know how to handle it.
From the question, something I didn't even think about, because I think Lindsay said who we profess to be, or I think she was saying pedestal, but she didn't. But there's also pedestals that other individuals put people on, and then if they fall from that, it could also turn into a church hurt type of thing. But it's like, well, you are the one that held them to that standard. They never held themselves to that standard. And I'm probably going into something else or another question as well. But again, we hold people to standards, and then if they, God forbid, they miss a step and they fall or they trip and they caught themselves, it's like, oh, well, I'm hurt from that. You put that individual on that pedestal. They never asked for it. You put them there.
I think that's one of the biggest issues surrounding church hurt in general and church is that at the end of the day, we're not Jesus. We're all flesh. You know what I mean? So um a lot of people are going at, people from the outside that come into the church that are, babes in Christ and different things like that, they look at us to be the examples. And unfortunately, we are I guess, the representation of what Christ is supposed to be here on earth. So as we're being that, unfortunately, we're still flesh. So there are going to be things that we get, twisted up, mix it up. We're going to, unfortunately, make mistakes. People are looking at us to be an example, and then we're not as strong as they may think that we are. So there's many different things, and that definitely comes into play as far as church hurt.